Hugh Wilson began managing Hinewai Reserve on Banks Peninsula when it was established in 1987. The intention was for nature to take its course and let the land return to native bush. It's a dream of Hugh's that's now being realised. For the past 10 years, Hinewai has sold carbon credits, bringing significant income to the property. But for Hugh, carbon sequestration is only part of the story.
Hinewai Reserve is actually 1,250 hectares, and we're also looking after another 190 hectares, which is adjacent to us for another trust, so it's part of really extended Hinewai. It's exciting because it extends from the subalpine tops of Taratara down almost to sea level, and we'd love to extend it right to the sea, but it's got a very wide range of environments and bush and everything, amazingly different from the top to the bottom. So it's a private reserve and completely open to the public. We're a charitable trust and the public can come in freely. What is now Hinewai was all farmed. In fact, it was an unusually big block for Banks Peninsula. I'm a botanist by profession, but I was doing a botanical survey on Banks, a detailed one, took years. Well, initially I thought, we've lost so much of the native biodiversity here, and after 6 years of botanically surveying the peninsula, I thought, gosh, it's not really what we've lost, it's what's still here, just waiting to reassert itself. So I wanted a bit of land to let it happen. I was introduced to a Christchurch businessman called Maurice White. He's still the chairman of our trust. He's 93 years old now. He came to me and he said, look, I understand you're doing a botanical survey of Banks Peninsula. I've set up this fund. It wasn't a huge fund, but could look out for bits of land that might be suitable for what he had an idea of a sanctuary, as he put it, for our native birds. That was 1986 he was introduced to me. A year later, I came to this little block of land, which was called Hinewai, as it turned out. I didn't know that then. And it was 109 hectares, unproductive, hobby farmlet really. They just came in the weekends, infested with gorse. Totally unsolvable problems in terms of pastoral production. And it also had some old growth forest on it, which is very rare on Banks Peninsula. Less than 1% of Banks Peninsula retains its old growth forest, maybe 0.7%, say. And just had 4% of that 109 hectares was old growth forest, and also it was red beech, which is very local on Banks Peninsula. So it was quite exciting for that reason. We don't regard gorse as an absolute no-no. I mean, it's an appalling weed for farming, as everybody knows. But in fact, if you leave gorse alone, and there are enough native seed sources almost everywhere in New Zealand for this to happen, and sufficient rainfall and everything, if you leave gorse alone, it rapidly gets tired of itself. And the natives come up underneath, and as long as they're not being grazed off, that's just natural regeneration, just native seed pouring in with wind and birds, whatever the species are. You can see all around us right here now, the natives come through, they're shade tolerant, but they love the light too. They shade the gorse, and as soon as the gorse is shaded, it's dead. That's its real weakness, its real Achilles tendon. So that's what we're doing, what we like to call minimal interference management. The plan for Hinewai is to let nature continue to reassert the original biodiversity, of which we won't get it all because some's lost. But very little in the way of plants are lost. Even the rarest of the rare things are reasserting themselves here. Gosh, it's amazing, the seedlings coming up along here. I haven't seen this for a while. But look, five finger.
The red tips on those.
On the horopito. Yeah. Beautiful. They called me a gorse farmer. And in fact, I was also called a fool and a dreamer for even considering it might be so. But I don't think there's a single farmer around us now, I think I could say that pretty confidently, who isn't completely behind what we're doing here now. It's also important because it's nationwide. Jan Wright, the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, talked very sensibly about letting thousands of hectares of this unproductive, marginal, weed-infested hill country to go naturally into native vegetation for carbon sequestration. And then other people talk about planting pines for carbon sequestration, which involves a huge amount of money and a biodiversity nightmare. And pines, incidentally, Pinus radiata is one of our worst weeds on Hinewai. So the natural regeneration, natural succession story is very significant nationally in terms of our carbon emissions. We're on the very rim of the Akaroa volcano, the crater rim. And this isn't actually part of Hinewai. It's owned by another trust called the New Zealand Native Forest Restoration Trust, but it's right adjacent to Hinewai. They're based in Auckland, and we're looking after it as if it's sort of a part of a greater extended Hinewai. But the exciting thing for us is this goes right over almost to the back doorstep of Akaroa, And the valley below us is water catchment for the town water supply, so that's going to be greatly improved. So what we come through to get here is a beautiful stand of old growth beech forest. Mostly red beech, Tawai Raunui, the bigger leaved beech, and black beech, Tawai Rauriki, but also some magnificent big fuchsia called tukutuku, and mountain five-finger, oriho, big lance-woods, very big horopito. Predator situation is very interesting here because the worst one of all is the rat. I've never seen a Norwegian rat here, it's probably here, but the rat we have here is a really common widespread Rattus rattus, the black rat, the ship rat, they have all sorts of various names for it. It's abundant everywhere, right through Hinewai, right everywhere you are, and except a few offshore islands, but the rat is the worst thing of all for the surviving bird, insect and lizard life. And mostly the stoats and the ferrets and the wildcats are preying on the rats. And unless you control the lot, if you just control the stoats and the ferrets and the wildcats, you could easily, and I think you probably are, doing worse than nothing. And the effort for controlling rats here at the moment is close to impossible. And it would take a huge, huge effort and an enormous resource and have a big impact as well. Possums, we aim for zero, but we'll never get to, well, when I say never, never's never, but we've got the numbers very low now. We've really thrown a huge effort into possum control by trapping and poisoning, and the numbers now are very low. Very few effects on fuchsia and five-finger, all are really vulnerable plants.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.